I'm going to go back for a moment, back to welcome. I saw as you put the full gallery was on the screen. Marty Lynn. I don't know you, Marty Lynn. I don't think I know you, Marty Lynn. But welcome to Unity of Payson in our morning service. I'm so glad you're with us. So who knows? Oh, here we are, quiz time again. Who knows what document? And this is long before documents were called docs or you were doxed or any of those kinds of things. Who knows what document is known as the founding document of our nation, of the United States? The founding document. What is it?
Isn't the Constitution?
Not the Constitution. Close. Declaration of, who said that? Okay, we needed Connor to come so he could tell us what the answer was. Now, so thank you, Connor. I appreciate you being here and giving us the answer. July 4th, 1776. The Declaration of Independence, that founding document, was unanimously voted on by 56 delegates from the 13 colonies. It was called the Second Continental Congress, met in a meeting room, now we know Independence Hall, as Independence Hall in Philadelphia. But there were a committee of 5 people that authored that document, and of course, you probably, Connor remembers, but probably the rest of us do too, that this was a point in which we were declaring independence from the authoritarian rulership of England or the United Kingdom. What did they call it back there then, Pam? Great Britain, okay. So I need help all over the place this morning. So there were a couple of people, as you will know, their names, John Adams, Ben Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson. They were a member of this committee of 5 that authored the document. However, somebody had to do the draft, had to put it together to start with, and then everybody else tinkered with it, and finally we got the document. Well, it wasn't Ben Franklin. They decided, because he was such a joker, that they couldn't have Ben Franklin was said to say God created beer because he wanted people to be happy. No, he didn't say that. But people say he said it. He actually said that the water goes into the ground and into the roots of the vine, and the vine produces the grapes, and the grapes produce wine, and people get happy, or something like that. So he was a joker, and they decided that he wasn't the one to do the first draft. Thomas Jefferson said, I think John Adams should be the one to do it. But Thomas was the one that ended up writing that first draft of the Declaration of Independence. It took him a couple of weeks. He kind of holed up and put that all together on his first draft of that. And of course, we came up with something that we all know pretty well. Now, you can say this sentence that at times has been reputed to be the most famous sentence in American English. Okay, you ready? I'll tell you, it starts with, we hold. You remember? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, he didn't say and women, but I'm adding and women, are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of. You'll all get an A. I like it. So I would love to think that Thomas Jefferson just got quiet and went inside, and out of him came, by the way, this isn't a scripture, but I'm recognizing in this document that relates particularly to us as Americans, a truth that I see that's there, and we'll talk about that today. But he had some resources too. Among them, you would know John Locke, Thomas Paine, people whose wise thought informed what he had to say when he produced that. Of course, he had his own part of that as well. And he came up with the idea that all men and women, I'm adding that because culturally we're at a different time, are created equal. So there are truths in these, and as I was looking at this, I decided that there were three truths that we hear about today, not always in the greatest of ways, but that they are these universal truths that are just very parallel to that Declaration of Independence. Can anybody tell me what, I'm going to give you the acronym. Well, it's not an acronym, the abbreviation. DEI. Connor? No.
That's too modern.
Diversity, equity, inclusion. Now, there may be different characterizations and mischaracterizations of these truths, but I want to tell you what I believe and how I think these are important for us today. So I'm not going to try to make it into a political thing. I'm just going to try to get the truth out there as I understand it. Of course, these truths apply to everyone of the human community. There's some application for all of us: diversity, equity, or we probably would say equality a little more commonly, and inclusion. But the question is, do we express them? And if so, how do we express them? But let's go on into them one by one and take a look at them. I put together, well, like I usually do, a key spiritual truth, except I'm going to call it an aphorism today. Or maybe not aphorism, a maxim, some truth that we all hold, regardless of whether we're part of one religion, what our spiritual practice is. I believe this is an aphorism or a truth that we can all hold. Diversity. In unity, we often refer to the fact that each of us is a unique creation. Each of us has a uniqueness. There's no one else like us in all of creation. We're all unique and all important to the human community. So, of course, we're diverse because we're unique. However, the other part of that, the other side of it is that we're all one. That's the enigma that I was working with a little bit earlier. The creative process, whatever we deem it to be, if there's a story that works for us, but the creative process said that of that divine energy, everything that flows out from there is created in goodness. But those individual expressions, us, are created uniquely. And so there's a lot of diversity among us. We also know that creation didn't quit when the divine, and whatever our thought is about that, initiated that creation. But that we immediately became co-creators with the divine. And so that we take that creation and move it along and evolve it and raise it up. And when we do, we all rise up, all the human community. But we do that out of this pool of diversity. Unity's third principle is that we are co-creators with the divine. And co-creators all are unique, and we all contribute to the oneness that we are, all important. Have you ever been in a situation that's, you might call it, its character is homogeneous? I grew up in one of those things. I was a male. I was white. I lived in the United States, in the north and the east part of the north of the United States. And most everybody I knew was like me in many, many ways. And it wasn't until I learned that like me is a very narrow slice of things, but that diversity is broad and rich and full. It wasn't until I did some traveling in the world. Many of you may have traveled abroad, and probably some of you started out like I did to think, well, I'm from America. We do everything better than everybody else. We've got the best science. We've got the best social policy. We got it all together. Well, it doesn't take long if you travel in other parts of the world to, one, recognize that other people don't agree with that. And secondly, that you begin to notice there's a diversity. Somebody has something to teach me. And it was, for me, the zenith of that came when I spent about 1.5 years in India. A very, wow, diverse country in and of itself, but certainly diverse from my upbringing and my understanding of the world. And it was that brought a great richness to my understanding, and a richness to say that diversity in India and every other place, that diversity, I'm going to pick on Connor again, in age, that diversity in how we problem solve, that diversity in how we feel, all of it is for the good of the human community. Diversity, so important. Rumi had the idea. Rumi says, Christian, Jew, he starts with the religions, Muslim, shaman, Zoroastrian, and then he gets a little broader yet, stone, ground, mountain, river. Each has a secret way of being with the mystery, unique and not to be judged. If there's any judgment we make at all, it's that this diversity makes the human family, at least gives us the potential for the human family to be raised up to be all that human family, that human community can be. Diversity. It takes a diverse world to raise up humanity. Now, how about equity or equality? In the Hebrew scriptures, Jewish tradition, the image and likeness of God is part of that creative story, that creation story. We are created in the image and the likeness of the divine. It's called in Latin, it kind of became theological after a period of time, imago Dei, I-M-A-G-O, and then D-E-I, imago Dei. And the idea was not that we as humans were seeking to be like God, to be like the divine, but that the divine was implanted in each of us. And that the potential for us reflecting that divinity in the world was there. And everybody got that. Everybody was made in the image and likeness of God. So the question of equality was not even there. We all express the divine. We all are under the umbrella of divine care. And we all have a unique relationship with the divine in that we have that divine implanted within us, that Christ within us. And so it is, we're equal on that level. When we're equal, we're not more than anybody else. When we're equal, we're not less than anybody else. Some of us go the other way and say, oh, I'm never going to be equal to somebody that we respect or look up to. And we missed the point. The point was we all are created equally, all important, none more than another, none less than another. I like what Winston Churchill said. He talked about animals and this idea of equality. He says, I'm fond of pigs, says Winston Churchill. Dogs look up to us. Cats look down on us. Pigs treat us as equals. And so we are equal, not looked up to in that somebody else is, I'm above them, or they think I'm above them, and not looked down on. I'm better than. This is the way the creative urge expresses. Winston Churchill is a little bit humorous. Lao Tzu says it a little more elegantly. The earth and the stars do not take sides. To them, all people are equal and alike. That's a little bit humbling to some of us. It's a little bit elevating as well at the same time. It takes an equitable world to raise up humanity. And now on to inclusion. The poem I asked who wrote this yesterday, but I had to go and look up. Poem by Emma Lazarus, inscribed at the base of the Statue of Liberty. Remember that one? You probably could say that one too, but I'm going to read it to make sure. Well, it's on my iPad. I think I'm going to read it, if it still will come up. Hold on half a second. We'll see if it will. Here we go. This is something that was given a little bit of a new life by James Comey. Anybody remember James Comey? One of our current political figures, who commented, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. And then he goes on to say, this country's greatness and true genius lies in its diversity, lies in its equality. So how do we welcome? How do we bring into our lives all of those equal expressions of the divine? Or do we? Or do we turn away and say, no, this is mine. This is my border. I don't want you to come in. I don't want you to be included. Or maybe you're on the other side of it and say, well, I'm just settling for my lot because I've been excluded. The truth is that we're created to be inclusive, that we as a human community are created to welcome and invite others to participate fully. We're created to each have a voice and for that voice to be heard. Thich Nhat Hanh. I love some of these wise people. Like read, I keep a file of things. Oh, I like that. Sometime that's going to come up. Thich Nhat Hanh says this about inclusiveness. The practice of inclusiveness is based on the practice of understanding, compassion, and love. Increasing our understanding and compassion makes our heart grow greater. And what more challenge could we have? What more satisfaction could we have than that our heart grows greater? we do a little bit of that. Something has emerged. Charlotte knows this. Kindness works for all. The idea to include for everyone in the bestowal of some kindness that we have. That hasn't really gotten off the ground like I hope it will get off the ground. I'm seeing it that way. But the truth is there when we are open-hearted, when we invite, when we welcome, when we include. And that could be including, are you 13, Connor? 13-year-olds. It could include independents politically, Republicans politically, Democrats. We include all of those in our human community, our human family. We don't exclude them. So that truth comes back again. It takes an inclusive world to raise up humanity. Usually I say, how do I do that? I'm not going to say that today. I'm going to say, how do we do that? Because we're the community. And throughout this month, we'll talk about community in different ways, even the beloved community, the spiritual community that's ours. It takes an inclusive world to raise up humanity. Leo Tolstoy said in Anna Karenina, I think if it is true that there are many minds as there are heads, then there are as many kinds of love as there are hearts. So how do we do that? How do we be open-minded and welcome diversity? How do we be spiritually non-judgmental and be equality itself? Exercise equity, have that be the value that is our basis for interaction in our world. How do we include? How do we have that loving heart that Thich Nhat Hanh talked about, or that Leo Tolstoy noted? Well, I'm going to suggest here's how we do it. In preparing this message and working with Saturday Soul Boost yesterday, which is always a great help. If you haven't been to Saturday Soul Boost, it's quite a bit of fun, and it's a wonderfully engaging conversation. And if I were to give you the message at that time, it'd be totally different than the message comes out here on Sunday morning. Because it's the community working together, even a small group of community, that little bit of spiritual community, that brings out the truth ever more fully. So I'm going to say this. I have a heart for expressing the value of diversity. If that touches you, here's your assignment. Talk to me. I'd love to have you be part of that value force. You know, you talk about task force. We're not talking about tasks so much. We're talking about values. I'd love to have you be a part of that diversity value force. Or perhaps it's equality that really touches you. Talk to me. Those of you online too. Or if you're watching this recording, days or weeks from now, you have the information, get back to me and say, I want to be a part of this value force that lifts up the human community, even though it's in a very small way and a small start. Diversity, is that what really touches you? Equality, is that what touches you? Or how about inclusivity? Including. Which of these touches you? I hope one of them does, or perhaps more, but pick one, the one that really tugs at you, and talk to me. I don't know where it's going to go exactly. I don't know what's going to come out of that. But I do know giving our attention to that and making that move to say, this is an important truth that I want to see expressed in the world. I know that's important. So talk to me. Tell me you're on board of the value force about diversity or equality or inclusivity. That key spiritual truth, again, it takes a world to raise up humanity, and that's what we're here for. Are you a functioning part of that world? I hope you will be. I'll be looking forward to hearing from you. And so it is.